everyone, it's Diabetic Danica, and it's time for my review of the Animas Vibe. I have now been using the Animas Vibe insulin pump for 12 days, so I figure I kind of have a good sense of what's going on with it. I mean, I could wait longer, but I don't really want to. So at first glance, the Animas Vibe is very much like the Animus Ping, and even at second glance and third glance, it very much is pretty much the same pump. You know, the actual pump part of it. But there are a couple things that have changed. So one more time, in case you don't know, the Animas Vibe is a mix of the Animus Ping insulin pump and the Dexcom G4 CGM. So this is what I had before. Now I don't need this anymore, and I can just have it in the pump. So I've been wanting the Animas Vibe all along. I actually never wanted, at first, just the Dexcom because I didn't want to carry two devices. And then I was like, well, I'll just get a Dexcom while I wait for the Animas Vibe, and I'm so glad I did, but now I'm really glad that this is out, so I only have to carry one thing. And a lot of people are wondering, you still have to have two sets on your body, so you still have an insulin pump set and then the Dexcom G4 sensor, but you only have one device that all the information is going to and the only thing that you're using. So obviously the main number one pro of this insulin pump would be that it has the CGM inside, if that's what you're looking for. So for me, I love the CGM, and so that for me is the biggest plus of this pump, the hugest, biggest, giganticest reason why I got it. On that same token, the biggest con of this pump is that it doesn't have a meter remote. So the Animus Ping, the pump before this, has this meter remote, and you can program your boluses from it, you can see your IOB, you can't change basals though, and you know, it's nice because you check your blood sugar and it's right here in the meter, and then you can bolus from there. So with the Vibe, they don't have enough room, I guess, in the technology in the pump to have both the CGM and the meter remote. But for me personally, I would so much rather have a CGM integrated than a meter remote. On my priority list, CGM is like, boom, way at the top. So for you personally, you use the meter remote like it's your lifeline, basically, and you absolutely love it and you don't really care about a CGM, then yeah, stick with the Ping. But for me, I did use the meter remote quite a bit just because it was convenient, but I haven't missed it in this 12 days that I've been on the Vibe, like at all. Also, it's been kind of funny adjusting to this pump. A couple times I've taken out my pump thinking, you know, I want to see what my blood sugar is, or let's enter my blood sugar, and it's like kind of automatic, and then I'm like, no, this is my pump. And then I'm like, no, I can't see it on here, that's right. And now I like take it out and be like, wait, can I? Oh, and then I like stutter a little bit, like, can I see my blood sugar on here? I can, that's right, I knew that. And I can catch alarms right away too, because sometimes when this is far away, like if I was in the living room and it was in my room and it was alarming, I would just leave it because I'm lazy like that sometimes, and it would just go off and off and off, and now it's right on me, it's easy to silence. Here's what the main menu looks like. CGM. You can put in your BG there, you can look at the trend graph, start or stop a sensor. Another cool thing about the Vibe is you can look at the history of your CGM, so you can see when you started it, when you last had a BG calculation, and when the last warning was. So I had a high blood sugar at 6:10 p.m. yesterday. That's really cool. The Dexcom doesn't have that. At first I thought it would take longer to program my boluses because I'd have to insert my blood glucose into the pump instead of having it already on there from checking my blood sugar. But I figured out it's actually the same amount of steps for me, because before I used to check my blood sugar and then I would put my blood sugar into the Dexcom and then I would bolus from my meter remote. So I was only putting in a blood sugar one time to this. Now, basically, if you put in your blood sugar for a correction, like you're telling it how much your blood sugar is so you know how much insulin to give, after it gives you the insulin, this alert pops up and it's like, do you want to use this as a calibration for the CGM, like a input number that you're going to put in anyway? And I say yes, and then it automatically goes to calibrate my CGM. And I'm just the kind of person that calibrates my CGM at every check, so when it comes to a bolus, just like before, it's only one time I'm putting in my blood sugar because it uses that blood sugar for the CGM. So I figured out it's the same amount of steps to bolus for a correction for a blood sugar, and I love that. Good feature. It also saves time when it comes to bolusing for a carb amount or even just a long calculation of BG and carb and IOB, that screen where it adds it all up for you, and then there's a number at the bottom that's like a suggestion bolus or like what they think you should give, but you still have to pick to give that much, like scroll up. On the Ping, you had to scroll up all the way and hold it there and wait and like time it right so you get the right amount. On the Vibe, you put the up button once and it goes straight to the amount they suggested, and then you can choose to change it based from there. It's the best thing. It's a shortcut. That's one of the shortcuts that I found that I really love. Honestly, when I first started this pump, I was like, it's not that much better, because I didn't know about two shortcuts. So the one shortcut is the skipping up with just one push of the button. It goes all the way up to your bolus amount. The second shortcut I didn't figure out at first because I didn't read any of the directions, because I don't know, I've had this pump before, but they actually give you a piece of paper that says the differences between the Ping and the Vibe, and this is where I found the other shortcut. So I was a little bit upset at first because I thought to see your blood sugar on this, you had to go through like, how many button pushes? Let's see. 3 OKs and a couple down arrows, and like, for how often I check my blood sugar on this, that's kind of a lot. So I don't know, I was like kind of upset about that. And then I figured out the shortcut button. So on the Ping pump, the light button on top just makes the screen brighter or dimmer, and that's it. But on this pump, if your pump is sleeping, like there's nothing on the screen because you haven't touched it in a while, if you touch the light button, it'll show you the last CGM screen that you left off on. And they have this one screen that I really like. It's like a blood sugar, the time, your insulin on board, and an arrow to show which way you're trending. And it took me so long to get to that button for like the first however many days, 3 days or something. And then I figured out the shortcut by reading this piece of paper, and I was like, okay, it's perfect now. I love it. It's great. Because I was like, they should have made this screen the first screen, the screen with your blood sugar and the IOB. Like, that makes more sense. Why didn't they do that? And then I figured out they did. Before you had to go way back in the status screens to ever see your IOB, but now you can just see it right there with your blood sugar, which is the information I really need right away. But you can also leave it on a graph if you like graphs more, and it'll just come up to that. And I don't know why the screen looks like that on my camera, but in real life it is not doing that at all. You can zoom in just like on the Dexcom, wherever I put it. You can zoom in 24-hour, 12-hour, 6, 3, 2, 1, I think. A lot of different screens till you can see closer and closer and closer to real time. Another thing I was worried about is the battery life, because already the Animus Ping pump, I feel like the battery doesn't last that long because it's a color screen and just like, you know, zaps the battery. And I figured with checking my blood sugar on this so often to look at what it is, it would probably die quickly. And I can't really say right now because when I started it, I reused my battery from my Ping. And so I did have to change it in that 12 days, but I was using an old battery. So right now, let's see how many bars. It's on 2 bars. So I feel like I am gonna have to change it more frequently. I can't say how frequently right now, but I think probably it just makes sense since I'm looking at the pump more. Another cool thing about the Vibe is they added a back button. Now this seems really simple. I don't know why they didn't have it before, but on the Ping, usually in the menus, like when you're changing settings or stuff like that, or looking in the status bar, you have to click next. And if you skip it, you can't go back. You have to go all the way around. And so now on the screen, you can choose this arrow or that arrow. And that's amazing. So here's the arrows I'm talking about. You can go forward or back. Back, forward. It's a little thing, but it makes a difference. Another thing I've heard people complain or worry about are quieter alarms. So I don't know about you, but the alarms on the Dexcom are like the loudest thing I've ever heard. Even the vibrate, I usually always had it on vibrate. It's the loudest vibrate ever. If you're in a quiet room by yourself, it literally made me jump so many times and I got so freaked out. It just comes out of nowhere, especially if it's on a hard surface. It's like, it's horrible. But I have heard people also say that it doesn't wake them up in the middle of the night. The Dexcom doesn't. And I think I'm just a really light sleeper and I'm really sensitive to sound, and so this guaranteed 100% to wake me up. It's the loudest thing in my life. It scares the crap out of me. Whether it's on vibrate or loud beep, I would definitely hear it. This one is definitely quieter. So I was a little bit worried, even though I'm a light sleeper, about not waking up for lows. And for me personally, I've gotten to the point where a lot of times I don't wake up for a low until I'm really low, which is part of why I got the CGM. I was dropping to like 26 in the middle of the night and I really needed to not do that. So the first couple nights I did have both on. That's another plus, actually, I forgot to mention. You can still have, if you already have a Dexcom, or if you want to buy one extra, I don't know, you can have the receiver and this hooked up to your CGM at the same time. So if you're a parent and you want the Vibe pump, for your kid, but you still want to be able to see their blood sugars if you're close enough to them, you can totally get this as well. They also just came out with a Dexcom that has share inside of it, so it'll send to your phone too. I don't know a whole lot about that because I haven't looked into it. It might only be iPhones, it might be everything, I'm not sure. But imagine if you had the Vibe, so your kid can look at their blood sugar, and the Dexcom share, so it would share it to your phone. It'd be pretty cool, but your kid would still have to carry two things. But anyway, the point is, if you want the receiver still like you had with your kid before, you still can have both. Anyway, the first 2 nights I had both because I was really worried about not waking up. And so I actually found that this guy, I think this guy alarmed before this guy ever did or something. I don't know. I found out I woke up to this, and it was awesome because I love the alarm on this because it's more happy sounding. It's less like you're gonna die sounding and more like, hey, just letting you know your blood sugar is low or high, you know? And then if it gets worse, then it gets more urgent. So this one, it's like, burp, burp, burp. It's like an alarm, it's gonna kill you. And then this one is like, da-da-da-da, and it's a little bit quieter. I still have it on the loudest alarm. And then I was also like, oh man, I really like the vibrate because I don't always hear it, but I might feel it. But I also like a loud beep because if I don't feel it, I want to hear it type of thing. And the more I use this, the more I find out it does do both. So first it'll go the da-da-da-da, and then if you don't hear that, after it waits a little bit to see if you respond, then it's like brr, 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 brr. That was a vibrate. And then if you really don't respond, it goes beep, 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 which sounds more urgent to me. So I found out it definitely wakes me up, I definitely hear it, and it just causes me less anxiety because this Dexcom one was so loud and like stressful for me that I really like the happiness of this one. But if you're a deep sleeper, I'm not so sure because I don't know. I just have never been a deep sleeper, so I definitely wake up to this thing. Ta-da! That's what the sound is. So after becoming more familiar with the pump and finding those shortcuts and kind of how it works, I definitely love this way more than the Ping for my personal needs. So I don't really need a meter remote, but I do need a CGM, and I much prefer to have it in the pump. So for me personally, this thing is the best. I guess one thing that I've been kind of wondering about, I got the One Touch Vario IQ with my pump, and I have yet to research how accurate this is. So I really like this meter. I think I'll do a review on this meter as well. Because I don't have time in this video, it's already super long, but I want to look up accuracy because I feel like this CGM has been off, not that much, but more frequently than the Dexcom. Like the separate Dexcom was almost never off, it was very rare. This one has been off by quite a bit, fairly frequently, and I don't know if it's the meter. Like I need to look up if this meter is as accurate as this meter because I feel like with this meter it was more close to the Dexcom, whereas this one, it's been off a few times, and I don't know if that's just other factors coming into it. I'm not sure. Like this is the same technology as this, so I feel like it'd be the same CGM because I never upgraded this to the newer software. But anyway, it could just be a fluke, could just be this particular sensor I have on messing it up, but I really want to research how accurate this is compared to my other meter because one time I had both strips, right? So I checked on both meters and they were pretty different, and I was like, but which one's right? So I need to look that up. Oh, and if you're wondering, my strips were approved by my insurance for this. They're different strips, but they're the same copay, 20 bucks. Okay, now I've sufficiently talked for a really long time, so I'm gonna stop. And hopefully I said most of the things I wanted to say. I think there's a lot to say about this pump, but if you have any questions, which I'm sure you do, you can leave them down below, and I'll make another video answering all of your questions. Like when I first got the Dexcom, I made a video generally about it, and then there were a lot of questions, so I answered them. So another video will be answering the questions that you leave for me in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe, and I will see you very soon for the One Touch Vario IQ review and the answers to your questions about the Vibe. Bye! I love this pump.